And now we'd request Mr. Neeraj Saxena, who's an angel investor and also the managing director of Xscale and Univision Fund, to come up and impart insights on the topic of how to scale up B2B SaaS business. Mr. Saxena is an industry veteran with more than 2 decades of experience in leading strategy, GTM, and operations for Fortune 500 companies. It's over to you.
Hi, thanks for having me over. A quick introduction about myself. Though I am representing a venture capital fund here, but today I'm not going to talk about funding. Can you hear me all? Perfectly okay. Great. So today I'm not going to talk much about the funding part. I'll talk about something else, right? And then I continue from where both of my predecessors left. Dr. Rao, he has spoken about technology to innovation, right? So that is one journey, that you have a technology, you convert it into a product. And then the second journey starts, converting a product to a business, right? That's where you start getting the revenue and make it a sustainable business. So that's the part I'll talk about. C. Manoj has also shown us a slide where he shown that the number one reason, or the first reason of the biggest reason for the failure of the startups is funding crunch. In the number 3 and number 4, the reasons listed are outcompeted by other businesses, and number 4th was I think it was failure to find a business model. If you add both of them, because they both are exactly one and the same thing, is failure to have a GTM model. If you add these two, they become 39%, and that becomes the number one reason of the failure of the startups, right? And that's where I'm going to talk about. So I just take a 15-second pause, and I want you to read this. I think this is the slide with the maximum number of text in this entire presentation. Just read these two things, right? Hopefully would have read it, right? So who are these guys who have written them? Number 1 is Peter Thiel. Sorry, I think you guys are still reading. Let me step aside for another 10 seconds. Done? Okay, so these are, Peter Thiel is actually runs a VC fund called Founders Fund, one of the top 10 funds in US. Anderson Howards, if you know, it's one of the top 3 funds in the US. So their founders are saying the same thing, that the biggest reason that the startups are failing is not the product and not the technology. It's the ability to take a product or technology to the market, right? And why this is happening? Look, today I'm focusing on more on a B2B SaaS because we invest in that space, etc. But by the way, what I'm going to say is true 90% to any B2B business. It would be true almost 60 to 7% even to a B2C business, because the fundamentals stays the same, right? So this is this is a couple of things that I want to talk about. One is that the key challenge for any B2B business, right, in general, is the scaling of the revenue. By the way, this is true for any business, right? And second is, if you have a business, if you are in a technology business, SaaS business, essentially you want to go out, out of India, and that's where you realize better revenues and better EBITDAs or the margins, right? And then that's where how to do it. So these are the two questions I am trying to answer today. So look, my intent from this presentation or this session is you take away something, that you can work on. So it's going to be, fairly deep down there. So I'll talk about these two things. Look, we know India as a country, and then Dr. Rao has spoken about it as well. We are great in building technology. So, we all know that Indian technical knowledge, technical, know-how is second to none, compared and then added to the pool of talent we have or the amount of, folks we have. So technology is actually not a challenge in India. Means, we are working with so many startups or worked or evaluated so many startups, right? The problem is, as Indians, and I think that's true for most of the Southeast Asian countries as a whole, we are not very good at selling, right? Unlike many of our Western counterparts, right? We are selling or conveying or telling in a very articulate way what you are doing is almost a part of culture, right? Even a 6-year-old know how to sell a charity tickets, right? So that's there. So I think it's a cultural thing also that, in India and Southeast Asia, and, sales is considered as a bad word. Normally people use a slang that you are trying to sell me. Yeah, so what's wrong with that? I have a product, obviously I have to sell to someone, right? So that's a point, right? That, selling is not a part of culture. Number 2 is access to the global markets, right? Since we are almost emerging now and started to sell now, I'm talking about the startup space, internationally, we need to be cognizant of the fact that there are different regulations, there are different taxations, there are different now laws like a GDPR or the privacy laws of each of the country. Almost now every major country, be it US, Australia, European Union, all have their own privacy laws, etc. So you need to be cognizant of that fact, right? Add to it the complexities of transfer pricing, etc. That you have to take a product, sell there, and then what should be taxation here and there, and how will you transfer the money from there to here, right? So I'll talk about some of these things, and why this all becomes even so more complex in a B2B world compared to a B2C world. In B2C world, you can still do a Facebook ad, Google ad, do some SEM, right? Try to get some customer. Your CAC can be crazy, but you will end up getting some customers by the way, right? In a B2C world, you can acquire a customer. It's about the ratio of LTV and CAC eventually. That disrupts you. But here in B2B, you will finding first few customers is almost impossible. Whatever money you are ready to spend, finding first few customers is almost the super uphill task that you will ever do in your life, right? Way more difficult than building the product, right? And the reason for that, and most of the founders, the way they try to solve the problem is trying to do one of these things, right? They will hire 1 or 2 sales guys from larger enterprises and then think they will solve the problem. It never happens. Then they will hire a marketing agency and then expect some results to come. Never happens, right? So they try the piecemeal approach, and the reason for that is this. I was trying to represent the problem through this diagram, which is each of this is almost like a component or a part, right? Direct sales, inside sales, marketing agency, right? These are parts of an engine. You deploy a part and expecting your automobile to move is not going to happen. You need to have a full engine to move your automobile. So that is the key part, and they have to work in a very coherent fashion, one after the another, right, at a certain speed, such that one of these does not outpace the other. Otherwise, your engine will falter very soon, right? So that's the art of designing an engine. So doing B2B sales is almost having to have an engine, right? A full B2B engine. So today I'll talk about, to give you, I think I cannot cover in all the details that I would like to, but I still give you an idea that how to approach the problem, right? If you are a B2B founder, as I said, even if it's not a SaaS business, it's any other kind of a B2B business, most of the things you will need it. So first is need to have a strong business and GTM strategy. This is one of the problems that a lot of founders have. They think I have a product which has applicability in 13 industries, 200 geographies, I'll go and conquer the world now, right? You can't do that. The Reliance and Tatas of the world cannot do that, right? The previous company I came from was a $12 billion in revenue. We only had direct sales in 18 countries in the world. We have used a partner and distribution model across the globe, right? Even a company of, $12 billion in revenue cannot afford or, could not find it meaningful, profitable, right, to have a direct sales in more than 18 countries. So that's what I'm talking about, right? So you need to find the right business strategy, and I'll touch upon this, what are the elements of a good business strategy on GTM plan. Second is you need to have a sales engine. Again, I'll go in most of these things in slightly more detail. Eventually, look, the purpose here is Indian tech talent is still low cost compared to the global peers. So for example, if you are developing a technology or a product in India, still it is 1:3 or 1/3 if you are trying to do the same thing in US, right? That is a distinct advantage we have. Now what we need to do is do our sales again at a 1/3 or 1/4 of the cost. Now because of which your eventual product cost, the cost to the customer can be 1/3 of your competitor who is sitting in US or Europe. So even if you have a same product, similar product, you can capture the market just by the virtue of having a lower prices, right? Now understand one thing. If you leave apart Fortune 500 companies, which are where there's a lot of crowding happens, all the vendors crowd there, right? If you look at the mid-market segment, starts after that, and there are millions of companies across the globe, right, who can be your customers, and most of these mid-market companies are very, very cost sensitive, right? It's not like Fortune 500 companies are not cost sensitive. I worked in Fortune 500 companies all my life. They are super cost sensitive as well, but mid-market companies, their decision criteria normally starts with the cost, right? So if you have a product which is 1/3 the cost of your global peers, you can go and capture this entire very, very large mid-market space, right? And how to do that, I'll just show you. So this is going in deep dive into one of first pillar, which is the business and GTM strategy. What you need to arrive, ultimately you need to look at your competitor, what to whom you are trying to sell, where is the fitment, etc. At the end of the GTM exercise, you need to have 5-6 things in place. Which industry you are going to target, right? If you have a product that can go into multiple industries, which geographies you are going to target, which sales channels you are going to use, direct, partners, distributors, and so on and so forth, right? Digital versus physical. And then you need to have positioning, that what is my positioning compared to all other existing products out there, and what should be my pricing. So these are the 6 things you need to arrive before you spend even a single sales dollar. Now this is the busy or a complex diagram, and that's what I was talking about. This is the sales engine, all right? This is a sales engine to do a sales for a global audience remotely, right? This is the key element of this engine, right? You need to have a lead generation, and then you need to do a prospecting, you need to run top of the funnel programs, and then eventually you close the deal. You take them towards the customer success, etc. So you can upsell, cross-sell, and then find the reference customers, right? The whole idea of this is to do 80 to 90% of all of this from a low-cost location like India. So even if you are selling in US, you need to run 80% of the cycle in India to become cost competitive, and then that is the key thing you need to do, right? Again, I think it's a busy diagram. I can talk about it later on a coffee session if you want to know details. But I'll touch upon some of the elements that you'll need to build such kind of a diagram. What are the capabilities you will need? So first thing, as I said, the components don't solve the problem. You need all the components to build the engine, right? And these are the components you need basically, right? Starting from planning and sales operations, where you do the planning, and then you need to go towards the marketing, where you do the branding, you do the inbound, outbound events, and then finally cross-sell, upsell, going into the direct sales, supported by a pre-sales. You need to have a customer success, because we are talking about a B2B SaaS products, right? If customer don't use your product, he will not renew your product, right? There will be a revenue attrition, right? The cheapest way to acquire or cheapest way to earn the revenue in a B2B SaaS world is to have repeat customers, right? Because the cost of acquiring them or retaining them is way, way, way more cheaper than acquiring a new customer. By simple maths, it's normally 1:5, but in practically, I am telling you it's less than 1:10. All right, so you have to retain. You need to have that customer success. Eventually, they will drive your upsell, cross-sell programs as well. And finally, you need to have a strong tools and technology because, as I said, most of the selling we are doing remotely. So you need a lot of technology to achieve that. I have one slide covering that. And then few more things like legal, finance, etc. This is critical because these are the international contracts, etc. You can't be, take them lightly because, in India it's okay, it's written in the contract, but kar do, ho jayega, all of those things don't fly if you're trying to sell international, right? You have to be very, very tight. What you are saying, what you are committing, if you miss that part, you're gone basically, right? So some of these things are required, and I understand to build all these things for a startup in the beginning is extremely difficult, by the way, right? And hence you need to find a solution that how to do it effectively, how to do it in a shared services fashion, etc. Right? So because hiring all these things for a startup, as you can understand, is crazy, right? They can't do it. This is the sales technology platform. Again, a complex and a busy diagram, but the whole point is, if you have to run your sales effectively in a very, very cost-effective manner, you need to replace people with the technology. It has dual advantage. Number one, it is way, way more accurate. It is way, way more precise. It is way, way more cheaper, right? All of things comes together, but it is way, way more complex, right? So if you can able to achieve this, right, and most of the companies that have scaled from India and acquired the global markets, they have done through these kind of technologies, be it a Freshworks, be it ChargeBee, be it CleverTap. Talk about all of them, right? All of them had a very, very strong technology, sales layer I'm talking about, which they have used and acquired the customer globally at a fraction of the cost, right? Just to give you a power of technology, I give you example, right? There is an Indian startup who is trying to sell in US like many others. And I have a CEO friend in US, right? He called me the other day. He said, you know that company? I'm not naming that company here. I said, yeah, I've heard of them. I don't have direct interaction. He said, what they're trying to do? They send me 27 mails in last 1 month saying exactly the same thing. So the whole point is, right, and then he said, now even if I need that service or a product, I will never buy from them. It is so annoying basically to receive those 27 mails saying exactly the same thing. I have this product, please buy it. I have this product, please buy it. Basically, they must be writing something else. But, you end up annoying the guy, right? This is not the way to do the sales. This is the way to lose the customers, right? This is definitely not the way to do the sales. So the way to do the sales is to bring the intelligence in your sales process, right? When you send a mail, and now today this technology have enabled you to do all of this. You send a mail, you can see who has opened your mail, who has not opened your mail. So somebody who has not even opened your mail is not interested in your subject line to start with, right? If they have opened the mail, read through it completely, and you can monitor it, he has spent his 7 minutes or 10 minutes, he has some level of interest of what you're talking about, right? So for the first case where he has not opened your mail, the thing is you need to change the subject line to start with. If you're talking about ROI, you need to change it to something else, the top line growth or something else. Basically, your subject line itself was not catchy enough. That's part number one, right? And then part number two, if he has opened the mail and then he has read it through, then it means he has some interest, and now take him to the next level. That is, invite him to a webinar, etc., and there's a long list of top of funnel programs, and then take him to the journey. So that's how you need to use the technology. You need to know what customer has done. Has he attended your next event? He has not attended your next event. He has responded, not responded when. So when you use this data analytics, right, and use the decision basis the data, you will do very, very high point and shoot kind of a thing rather trying to do the spray and pray, right? And then for increasing your geographic sales coverage, if you especially again, as I said, want to go outside, you need to be aware of some of the few things that how to create a overseas entity, how to have knowledge of international regulations. As I said, GDPR and privacy laws are very, very important. So just keep these things in mind before you venture out. So that's pretty much it. I'll pause here. Happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks for listening me patiently.
The questions that we probably have for Mr. Saxena? Anybody from the audience? Well, can you pass the mic?
Hi, my name is Kazafi.
Hi.
In B2B business model, SaaS business model, the problem is that whenever you approach any new company, and they have one, and you are coming with a very new product line, and that product line, somebody has never used it. They have to change the ecosystem completely, and hence even though they like the system, but they are really scared to change ecosystem, and the managers within the company who is sitting on it, they think, oh yeah, who will take this kind of pain? You know, if they don't have fire in the belly, then why to take this kind of a pain? And hence that many times, many of the company we approached for, they like the system, everybody, until unless it is not driven by CEO of the company. It's most of the company, but in my experience of 20 years, I feel that they realize, no, system is not going to work. And the reluctance is so high, and down the line, nobody is interested, everybody is in day-to-day life, and hence the change management is so difficult for, especially, and the next problem, if you have a newcomer, and your system somebody has not used. So to find one initial big customer, it takes huge time. Almost sometime all startup with a great technology, it fails that then and there, because no big company or a smaller company is adapting it. And this is that over the years when I was on the other side of the table, when so I also reacted that. Many technology came to me and I said, why you want to do, what changes it will, I don't have a belief on your system and all. And I refused it. And when now I am on the other side of the table, I am feeling the same kind. So I can't, really pinpoint that the managers are wrong, but yes, the change management is, and it is a risky proposition for the manager also. That
True.
If he takes new technology and if it is a huge investment and if it is not working, he is completely backfired in the company. And this is the most difficult in B2B SaaS model.
Absolutely. So you have actually raised 2 points here. The first one, actually, you answered yourself, by the way. You said, you try to reach someone, he is not interested, right? He needs to have fire in the belly, etc. But at the same time, when you reach the CEO, something can happen, right? Basically, it's about reaching the right decision maker. And I give you a live example that has happened very recently. I met a startup and it has came through a reference to me. We were not actually funding or taking them on board, but he only came for help or some advice, through a very close reference of mine. And they told me, I'm not taking the name of the bank, but it's India's one of the top 3 banks.